I I choked. I wasn't able to say what I know to be true, what every Hindu knows to be true, what anybody who can read Sanskrit or whether they, I can't, I can read Sanskrit, but I'm a stupid man. In the Sanskrit of the Bhagavad Gita, it's a very, it is so rich. It is so rich in what is called dhani and illusion and poetry, and it is so marvelous. But so is the Book of Job. There's a fantastic, I I mean, not that I know anything about Hebrew or Greek. I'm stupid. But, Norman Hebel, there's a book by the Book of Job in the library, and I read it, 20 years ago. It's just marvelous, marvelous, marvelous. It showed that everything in Sufism, I come from India, I write Urdu poetry and like that. And all the words, the technical Sufi words, which relate to soteriology, salvation, and to metaphysics and so on, they're all there. They're all there in the Book of Job, which is considered within the Judaic scripture as being a non-Job is Ayub is not a Jew. So there are prophets who are not Jews. There is a book, entire book within the fantastic Old Testament. I love the Jews. If you don't love the Jews, then you will hate the Christians. You will hate the Muslims. Because if you hate the father, you hate the mother, you will hate the child. You know? And Hindus are not like that. I wanted to tell you about why I got so much love. And the answer is, yes, it's because, I was ugly. I'm still ugly. But I was tall and I was a worker. It was obvious that I was tall. I was not like muscular, but the kind of guy who'll get on with any, like a job in construction, job in retail, job here, job there. I'll get on with it. And, decent people. And that's all. That's all it is. That is yoga. That is yoga. That is yoga. Yoga is suhrit, prapti, finding like-minded people, being part of a team, working your ass off. Because the alternative is your ass gets bigger and bigger and fatter and actually, obviously men like me, our asses don't get very fat, but our tummy does. And that's actually dangerous to our liver and to our kidneys. And it is, I've spoken about Ranganathan, who doesn't seem to understand that in terms of logic, Heidegger did shit in logic. Frege, Russell, Brouwer, Hilbert, but then, you have Gensen. Now, Gensen actually was a member of the Nazi Party, and, he could have escaped. Heidegger was too crazy, so he was sidelined by the Nazis. Gensen was so Gensen's system, class elimination, natural deduction systems, Gensen calculi. That's interesting, but with Bra, with Gensen, uh, you, Europe is just playing catch up with Indian or Anglo-Saxon. uh, thinking. So, these foolish men, uh, let us hear some more from him. But I should firstly mention that Gadamer, was in the Kantian sort of in the shadow of Kantianism, but Gadamer rebels against it. He says, "Well, this is foolish. It's not Kant. It's Schleiermacher. It's there's a different uh, approach." And hermeneutics, of course, is Indian. Ranganathan, I don't know whether he's descended from Brahmins, but I am. And, my mum said it's what we're supposed to kind of do. Hermeneutics, and we have, uh, you know, really, Navya Nyaya, and especially Navya Nyaya, is very much Mimamsa extension. It's and we know that our ancestors, not very distant ancestors. I'm talking about great great grandfather. Yeah, uh, these guys, they went from being hired to teach Sanskrit or Tamil in schools or Bengali or whatever in schools, and they made sure their sons learned English, became lawyers, made some money. But you can look it up. There's plenty of books about how Mimamsa rules, you know, heuristic rules of uh, hermeneutic rules, which are also what you have in Yaya, in Nabi Naya. Uh, because, jurisprudence is nothing but a hermeneutic. It's nothing else. It can be nothing else. You can have some substantive aspect as a theory of the economy. Well, the theory of the economy is shit, which is what socialism turned out to be. If it's wishful thinking, then you're back to justice as a service industry. You're back to hermeneutics as getting on with a fucking job. Whatever that job might be. So, but let's listen to this Creighton.
Explanation in terms of what you believe is prejudicial reasoning. Okay, so we shouldn't be engaging in that. And so yoga is actually a methodology, and logic, it's basically the same methodology, of not doing this kind of thing, right? So there's an easy counterexample to this idea that we're always explaining things in terms of prejudice. Just look at a valid argument with premises that are false, right? Or you don't know whether they are true or false, right? You don't actually have an opinion because you don't know, right? That's an obvious counter argument to the idea that we're always dealing with prejudice, because anytime I have to arrange an argument where if the president.
So this guy is kind of, he's actually a muscular looking, I don't know where he comes from, but rather a Caucasian, with a Caucasian sort of chap. He looks like, I don't know, Kamal Hussein, what's his name? No, it's Kamal Hussein, is it? The South Indian actor, who's, some guy from fucking Palghat. That's what this guy looks like. Yeah, but without the hair, because, what the fuck? Kamal Hassan, I'm sorry, not Hussein. Yes. But this is a kind of a, I was in Iraq from the age of 5 to the age of 7. I went to Al Mansour School, and I saw the genuine Iraqi, Mesopotamian, Mesopotamian, if that is the right word. I don't know, but basically, they're a lot bigger than us. Um, uh, when they're in that sort of league, uh, we can be taller. We can have bigger, wider sort of um, shoulders, slimmer, and also be very much more effective in fighting. Well, that's true. But there are obvious racial differences. And I did understand why this man, who doesn't at all look like us, he looks demented and strange. And he's talking nonsense about uh, Gadamer. I've written about Gadamer. The fact is that Gadamer kind of was a proper scholar, and he said, well, look, the whole German epistemic system and the nonsense which had been inherited from Kant. And I have a post about how Radhakrishnan kind of rejects Kant. Why? And, I don't really have any proof about it, except that my fucking great grandfathers were around, were in the background, with Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. And I know my people, his people, him, they were going the direction of statistical knowledge. Carl Pearson, Mahalanobis, Mahalanobis had got to Britain to study, but this was what prevailed, stochasticism. And therefore, of course, you didn't yet have von Neumann. You didn't yet have a theory of, sort of mathematical game theory. But Thomka was known to be statistical. This silly man, let's hear some more from him.
This is true. The conclusion has to be true. I have given up on explanation by way of prejudice. So Gadamer doesn't even really understand the basics of logic. I can't tell you how many times I hear this quoted back in contemporary kind of sometimes woke talk. People talk about kind of being, mindful of your, where you come from and your perspective, and you're always just speaking from your perspective. That comes from Gadamer, okay, student of a Nazi. Now, the reason why I keep bringing that up is that this is actually a right-wing talking point. This is not a way.
This is shit. Look, Genson in the 1930s, he comes up with a natural deductive system. There's Genson calculi versus Hilbert calculi. There's the cut elimination theorem. There's Bra, who, by the way, was a big fan of Tagore. What is this stupid cunt talking about? Gadamer had zero relevance. Nobody's heard of him. Genson, yes. Genson is important. But he was a fucking Nazi him. Who could have escaped? But he was just too fucking Nazi to do so. Anyway, let's this is an ignorant man. This is an ignorant man who doesn't know about India, doesn't know about Britain, about Anglo-Saxon law, about Anglo-Saxon thinking. He doesn't understand that his country absorbed many of the best things that Hinduism had to offer. He did it in the 18th century. This is a beautiful and wonderful country. If you have something good to give, it is absorbed by the native population. They will kill you just because your color is a bit different or a bit stupid or ugly, as was the case with me. And this man is now a professor at York.
That you have created by way of your own personal self-understanding, right? Simply identifying yourself as having such a samskara does not relieve you of it. And in fact, right, the more you identify with it, the more it governs you. And so it's not just a matter of saying I'm kind of dominated by prejudice. It's by adopting a methodology where I don't have to treat my prejudices as my resources for explanation. Okay, so this is, I can kind of rag on Gadamer. Gadamer is just a representative of a long.
So, why is this shit? The answer is that you can have all sorts of prejudices, but if you engage in commerce, in trade, if you do deals, if you maybe you don't have any money, but you walk down the road and you kind of go, "Hey, guy, I got a can of beer, and you've got 2 cigarettes, and you do a deal. That's it. It's doing deals." But this is exactly why Hinduism always said that the law is a samskar. It's a convention, it's a solution to a coordination game. And the nature of justice is game theoretic. You can always do reverse game theory to improve mechanism design. That is the great Indian contribution to it. Changed. India changed Britain. And it was statisticians. India had the best statisticians, and this was still true. The fact is that America has only adopted one institute from a non-European source, and that is the Indian Statistical Institute. But if you think about it for a moment, you'll understand that because India had low state capacity, it had very, very high heterogeneity and very low compulsion. It was really a spontaneous order. It was hierarchian. Then you understand why sampling techniques and why statistical techniques had so much purchase. But this is also true in the time of Ashoka and before that. So this is why the Indian just king, the king who is dedicated to justice, Yudhishthira, he suffers from Vishad, suffers from depression, and he has to receive 2 revelations. The first revelation is that of the Vyada Gita, that of the entrepreneur who made money in selling meat, the meat vendor. But the meat vendor has gained the honeyed wisdom of the Chandogya because he ignores their priests and their princes and all these nutters. He just make sure that you get a decent type of meat. Economies of scope and scale. That's it. And then he spends his money treating his own mum and dad as his gods. That's Indian. We love our mums and dads. One of our greatest heroes is the man who, when there was a problem, he put his mummy into, he created a tool, a long stick with two chairs suspended from it. Mummy, you sit here. Daddy, you sit here. Carried them away. To carry away our mummy and daddy, that's Hindu. But if I mention this to Irish or Yorkshire or these people or that people, they'll laugh a little bit, but they like it. They like it. They like it. Anybody. Russian, Chinese. Actually, Chinese, they will pat on the back. Say, no, no, no. I was telling to one gentleman, explaining one beautiful picture of, this hero of Hinduism who, no, put on the back and they go. They'll do it faster, they'll do it better. May God bless them. May God bless them. They are better Buddhist. They've got more retained the knowledge on the Buddhism. Yeah, may God bless them. May God bless. May God bless all people. All people. But not Ranganathan. Ranganathan, who's handsome and who's wasting his life talking nonsense.
My explanation for how this happens in part is that a lot of people mistakenly think that their very rudimentary education in Western philosophy, and almost always it seems that people who end up kind of wading into scholarship on South Asia had some type of Western philosophy education. They think that that's, and they probably did well in it. They mistakenly think that that's evidence that they're competent in philosophy. Now, why is that not evidence that you're competent in philosophy? Well, in philosophy education, where all you are learning are the
Look, philosophy education is shit because mathematical logic has advanced very greatly, even since 1970. You now have Vygotsky, you have who died, and everything that is in Western philosophy is shit. It's been superseded. It's nonsense. It's just rubbish. But this cunt didn't know it. I knew it. I knew it because I went to the LSE in 1979. And the maths was already there. He didn't know about it because he studied at worthless places where, they're kind of going, oh, it's a little bit brown, isn't it? Cleveland studies and, fuck you. And look at this cunt now. Look at him and then look at Yogi Adityanath. Who uses logic? Now this cunt, it's Adityanath. Adityanath has to use all reason, otherwise he'll be kicked out at the next election. This guy can go on blathering what the shite. He can talk about yoga, he can talk about this, he can talk about that. Nobody cares. But this cunt is useful. At least he would have been in the old days. In the old days, you had your own Ranganathan who will say, oh, well, I know about yoga. I'm the professor of yoga studies. And I say that Yogi Adityanath is not a true yogi. And nobody will fucking listen to this stupid cunt. Fuck him. But still, good-looking man, and he earns his money. He's paying taxes. Good for him. Nice man. Are you trying to say to me that if I had a daughter, I'd want to marry my daughter to him? You may have a point. But I do. I didn't have a daughter. But there is a cat which lives in the neighborhood. And maybe if it marries this gentleman, it will scratch his eyes out, which would be wrong. That's just wrong. It's not a good thing. But, we could always blame it on the BJP. Cats are like that. They're very BJP.